Through the Leadership Lens is brought to you by Thompson Autogas. Thompson Autogas is the industry's gold standard turnkey solution for all your autogas needs. From funding to refueling and everything in between, Thompson Autogas is there to support your fleet every step of the way.
Hello and welcome to another Through the Leadership Lens, a podcast presented by the Women in Propane Council. I am Freddie Riddler.
And I'm Bridget Kidd, and today we're so excited to have our international guest. We have Nikki Brown, who is from WLGA, which is the World Liquid Gas Association, and she serves as the WIN LPG Global Support Manager, which is a sister organization, I would say, to the Women in Propane from the United States. Nikki was a founding participant of that, and we're really excited to have you here today, Nikki.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So Nikki, we're excited from your perspective, especially in starting the network, the global network. But if you could kick us off by telling us, what does leadership kind of in a general sense mean to you?
Yes, sure. This is my personal opinion, obviously, but I think that you need to be able to inspire people working for you to use their own ability and their own initiative, and take the necessary steps that they have to achieve without fear of reaction from you if they fail. So in my opinion, attitude is absolutely everything. Firstly, I believe that you need to be consistent, meaning that your behavior and your talk always must be in full alignment. You can't tell your team to do something if your behavior doesn't back it up. And so for me, without fairness and consistency, you can't be a good leader. But secondly, I am the eternal people person optimist. And I have an unwavering belief in the power of the individual and what they can achieve. I think if you let people, they can be amazingly imaginative in dealing with professional and personal situations, and subsequently finding positive solutions to almost everything. Most people don't let you down, and most people want to perform well. And I really believe that if someone feels valued, feels listened to, feels appreciated by you as a leader, you will always get their best back.
I love how you said let people. And I want to touch on that a little bit more, because you said if you just let people show you what they can do. Sometimes letting people show you, it gets blocked by impatient leaders that think they can do things better or quicker on their own. Like they would rather take on the responsibility on their own. But you, on the other hand, are saying, I'm going to give you that chance. I'm going to let you show us that you can get this done. Talk a little bit about that leadership skill as just sitting back and almost encouraging your team to promote that skill.
Well, I think I've always taken the view that a good leader is able to delegate, not sit in an office doing nothing, but delegate tasks to try to develop the team. And it's hard. It's hard because there are so many managers out there who feel as if they're not doing it themselves, it's not going to be done. But you can't get your team to take up the challenges if you don't hand over responsibility. And that is responsibility from you. If they make a mistake, accept they've made the mistake without a negative reaction, but then both of you look at the mistake and say, right, what could we have done? And it's a we, it's not a you. What could we have done to ensure that didn't happen? And what can we take from that to make sure we can use it in a positive way going forward? And that's the only way people learn. When you have a baby or a child, you don't stop them from taking their first steps because you think they're going to fall over. You know that at some point they'll fall over, but that's how they learn. And I think it's, in a very simple way, it's very much the same for leaders in business. If you don't delegate, if you can't delegate responsibility and allow people to make mistakes, your company is never going to develop, and you're never going to develop as a manager either. So that's always been very much my philosophy. I don't see that companies that have managers who micromanage everything are ever really going to go anywhere, because they're not bringing in new ideas. They're not allowing people to bring in their own elements. And in any situation, that means you become stale. So that is something that one of my mantras, I think I would say. Delegate, delegate, delegate.
Do you, Nikki, I feel like there's a lot of confidence in your team if you're able to take that position. Can you talk a little bit about how you develop that and identify those strengths in people to enhance?
I think that comes from you. I would never ask. I mean, I don't manage a team anymore. I have done in the past, obviously, but I never expected any of them to do anything that I wouldn't do myself or hadn't done myself. And I would never put anyone into a situation where they felt completely out of their depth. You would always make sure that they were fully prepared going into each situation. But at the same time, you can't always allow for everything, for every sort of scenario. There are always going to be scenarios which come that you hadn't anticipated. But that's where you must allow them to make their own mistakes or make the right decisions. It doesn't have to be a mistake, but that decision may not necessarily be the same decision that you would have taken, but you shouldn't second guess them. You should allow them to do their own thing. If you've delegated the task, let them go with it. And I think people that work for me were confident that if they did something wrong stupidly, then obviously you have to remonstrate to a certain extent and say that was not necessary. But if they do something genuinely that they thought was the best option, then there's no negative reaction to have. And I think people felt confident with me that even if they made a mistake, they weren't going to be berated for it. I think that's how, as a manager, how the team developed itself to a certain extent, because they were confident in my support in all scenarios, simply put.
Mm-hmm. So I love, and I'm going to go back to what you said about, inspiration, being that inspirational leader. I love the word inspiration because it can just mean so many things and build up so many people. So you talked about you being that inspirational leader to your team. What inspired you, or who inspired you to become that leader?
Well, when I was, I started in the propane industry in the 1990s, and I worked for a very inspirational man. He was very quietly spoken, very consistent. And again, he never asked you to do anything he hadn't done or wouldn't do himself. He really encouraged creative thinking, and he was completely at ease with delegating responsibility. But he was very good at recognizing and praising success and achievement, but also embracing failure. As I say, he never second guessed your decisions. When he delegated a task, he did it totally. And he believed in the importance of making mistakes without a negative reaction. In fact, I think that's how he encouraged creative and positive thinking from those mistakes, because he gave you a working environment that actively motivated your own drive for personal improvement. And his style is one I really respected. but I've also tried to emanate with my own individual traits of his style within my own leadership style as well. So I think that's why I am who I am.
That's incredible. I mean, I think that idea of emulating somebody else and mentorship speaks volumes about leadership, and also about maybe a good opportunity for you to share a little bit about the win and kind of the incredible opportunity for leadership development for women in propane across the globe.
Yes, of course. Well, Win LPG. In fact, it was around about 2014, 2015 when I was still managing director of Cavagna UK, that the WLPGA approached me to say, would you be interested in setting up a network for women? And I have to say, I'll be absolutely honest, at the time I said, why? And then when I sort of sat back and really thought about it, um, again, I'll go back to that, my original manager, despite I'm saying despite being a man, even though he was a man, he gave me so much confidence in myself as a person to be able to achieve and do the things that I could do, that I thought maybe we can give something, maybe it's our responsibility in a way, because, from my point of view, I'd achieved success and I'd reached the level I wanted, as far as I wanted to go. And maybe it was my responsibility now to turn around and try and give something back to support others who maybe were facing similar situations, or were struggling in an environment they felt uncomfortable in, or didn't feel that they could develop within. And so that's really where Win LPG was born. And Alison and I sat down for nearly 12 months, sort of trying to identify how we could move it forward. And in fact, within the first 12 months of it going live, as it were, we changed it completely because it wasn't working. And that's I think, how you can develop, by recognizing that something's not working. So you have to change it. And I'm not afraid to admit I was wrong and I need to do it another way. And again, I think that's a trait, a really good trait of a good leader. But so we did that. And then for about 12 months, maybe 2 years, it just seemed...
Nikki, can
Sorry.
I interrupt you in this just for a second?
Yes, so.
What were, if you can share, like, what was the original plan, or what was the missed opportunity that then you pivoted towards?
We went out with a demonstration of the imbalance of gender within the propane industry, which we all know is there, but that was our real emphasis. And what we found was that not only gave us quite a lot of negative feedback from male not employees, male participants of the industry, but we also got quite a lot of negative feedback from women who said, and they were quite right, why should women get something just because they're women? They shouldn't have to. So we went back and we said, we need to turn ourselves around. So we then went out, and what we do, and what's proved really successful, is we demonstrate the business opportunities and the business advantages for companies to have balanced gender. And if you go out, it's all out there. It's so obvious. You have the same number of men and women on a board. You've got a balanced environment, so you get good ideas, but it's balanced. It's not heavily laden with finance, or it's not heavily laden with HR, and so it's all a balanced thing. And that's how we've gone, and that's why we've become more and more successful over the years, because we push the business advantage. Because business leaders want to know, well, what's this going to do for my company? And we can show them that. Not, you should have more women. Why? Well, you should have more women because this is what you can get from it. And that's what worked. So that's why we changed our our mantra, as it were. So
I got to ask though, because 2014, 2015, you were asked to start this Women in Propane. We know the story in the United States how Women in Propane was formed, and we talked to Nancy Coop, who was the founder of it. So we got a little background story of her. But I have to ask you on this larger scale, you and Allison sitting down for 12 months, that had to be nervous. You had to be scared. You had to have a lot of questions of, we're going to get a lot of pushback. I mean, you even just said it, like you're going to get a lot of pushback from the males and the women. But what inside of you kept you going? Like for those 12 months, knowing you're about to make a statement to say, we're going to get more women involved in this industry. We know we're going to get pushback, but what inside of you kept you moving forward with that? Even when you started getting pushback, like what did you and Allison talk about to say, we got to keep moving forward because we know this is going to work?
Um, I think if you knew me as a person and you saw my career, you would understand that I don't take no for an answer. So from my point of view, it was never not going to happen. It was just how it was going to happen and how long it would take us. I
I
mean,
love that answer.
yeah. So it was never not going to happen. But you are right. It was. We knew, and we did in the first 2 years. We got so much. Oh, and what's your little ladies' lunch club going to be doing this week? But I think over the years I've had so much of that negativity with regard to my gender that it's a bit water off a duck's back now. And from a personal basis, people who've actually come up against me in business or who've worked with me in business or who I've had dealings with know that it's not about being female. It's about making sure that you have the best person for the job, despite their gender or their age, for that matter. So I think gradually people realised we weren't going to go away. We did have a story to tell, and they started to listen. And I think that's what Alison and I have achieved more than anything, is the fact that there is now a platform and Win LPG is seen as a credible platform for the propane industry to talk about gender diversity and the benefits it can bring to our industry. We are still so poor. If you look at us as the energy business as a global entity is so poor. 22% only of women are employed within the whole global energy industry. It has to change, not only for the reason that it's better for the industry if you have a balanced environment, but you're going to run out of people to employ. 54% of graduates in 2022 were female. There's mathematics, just mathematics here that means that your talent pool is shrinking if you don't look outside the box. And that's what drives us now, I think, because if the industry is going to survive and develop, it's got to be forward thinking. It really has. So, and I'm excited by the future. It's really, this year at the forum, we're on the main stage. Diversity is on the main stage. We've always been a little bit of a side room, but this year in Cape Town, we actually are on the main stage. And we never thought we'd be able to achieve that within such a short time. So I'm really proud of that.
Maybe if anyone's listening at the NPGA Southeast Expo, maybe the live podcast through the Leadership Lens can be on the main show floor coming one of these days in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Nikki, can you talk to us about maybe what was the most challenging location to open? Or what is there one that sticks out where the country was more resistant or you had to really pivot your plan to see the success that you now have?
From a Win LPG perspective, we actually have people asking us to launch in their country. So we obviously we do a little bit of marketing, and we do a little bit of self-promotion, but it's normally, especially now, we are actually having people coming up saying, we want this in our country, we need this in our and actually most of the time it's we need this in our country. I would say from a personal point of view, the most challenging one was Nigeria, because it's very much a country that is very male dominated through all industries. Even down to women have difficult, or they did. I think it is improving, but they had difficulty even getting finance to set up businesses because they were female. But they wanted, it was supported by the association. They really wanted the Win LPG network, so we set it up. This was back quite a few years ago now. And I have to say, Nigeria is one of the most active and proactive chapters that we have. They do so much work in schools and with women, supporting them in and setting up businesses for distribution. And all of it is done under the Win LPG banner. And that's one of the good things that Win LPG brings, because it brings competitive companies together under one banner that's non-competitive, because they're all striving for the same thing, which is brilliant. So yes, I would say that was probably the most challenging. They all have their own challenges in different ways, and they're all very different. And that's one of the reasons why we have national chapters, because each country has their own focus. I mean, for women in propane, obviously, it's very much about the professional woman, about training, mentorship, that type of focus. Whereas in Kenya, it's about education and support for people who are working on the distribution side. And that's very much the same in Colombia. It's very much more support for women who work in the industry, but they work on the road. So they're the delivery drivers, because they're often very remote and they want something that makes them feel as though they're part of a group. So yeah, but it's interesting every day. It's interesting every day. So
I mean, it just seems so incredibly rewarding. And maybe a question that I would have, or maybe advice for people, you a few moments ago were talking about when this started, you felt like you wanted to give back, and then a sense of obligation to kind of give back. But that's what you guys took on is a huge risk and a huge opportunity, of course. But what would you say to somebody who's maybe embarking on, maybe not a global network, but on a challenge or a change in career? What advice would you give to them to get started?
The first thing I would do is to take a look on the Win LPG page on the WLGA, where we have role models. And this is something that we've always been asked for all the way through, is to showcase our industry both internally and externally, that you can be female and be very successful. So we have a role model page, but we also have a class of, we've been doing the awards since 2019. In fact, it might have been 2018. So we have a class page. So you have the class of 2019, and they're all women who have applied for the award and are showcased on our system. But the other thing is to talk to your senior managers and to get involved with the network. Find people who are doing the same job as you want to do and ask them questions, network with them. It doesn't come naturally to women to network, or so they believe, but we try and tell them that they do it in their everyday lives all the time, but they just don't recognize it as networking. But I think you can just create your own little script of questions to give you confidence when you're going into a discussion, to get the most out of those 5 or 10 minutes that somebody may give you. And I would say talk to as many people as you can. Talking is what it's all about, I think, and learning from people's experiences. So.
Yeah. So that's great. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and kind of go back to you were telling the stories about Nigeria or Kenya. So, and do you travel when you go to these different countries and start these organizations? Do you and Allison actually go on site to
Yes,
meet with them?
yes.
Okay.
So whenever we
How did
launch,
that change?
oh, sorry.
Okay. Yep. No, that's okay. Every time
Whenever,
we
whenever
relaunch.
we launch,
Okay.
Alice and I travel together because it's a bit of a tag team. So
Sure.
we each have our own responsibilities. So we always travel together. So yes, in that way we do.
Awesome. So when you're there, you must have so much energy with the women that are there to get moving along with this new women propane. What happened when you couldn't travel? When, flights shut down and everything was now online? How did you keep that energy going?
Well, what we did was we had webinars. We started webinars. So we had two webinars per year, one in June and one in November. But what we also did was we obviously already had a number of chapters. We'd already created a number of chapters. So we used to have bi-monthly coordinator calls because within each country we have a chapter coordinator, and it can be a team. It might not be one individual. It could be 3 or 4 people. And so we'd
Mm.
invite them all to attend a chapter meeting. And yes, there weren't all the news and the discussions to have, but it was almost like, come on, let's all get together and just talk about how we're doing. And it may only have been 30 minutes every couple of months, but we kept the momentum there and we kept the communication links open. And we tried to do as much as we could on the webinars to do a bit of training, and we get people ringing in. So that worked. And it was funny, you say that, but at the end of it was 18 months really, wasn't it, that we couldn't travel. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of that time, Alice and I both sat down and said to each other, wow, I thought it would all die because we couldn't get
Yeah.
there. Whereas in fact, the energy is there and we just need to really challenge it. And since we've been released from our restrictions, I think we've gone further and further and further forward. And the appetite for Win LPG and the work that it's doing and can do um, has increased. And I think that's really, really positive stuff for us going forward.
That's incredible. You guys have done an incredible amount of work, and it's fun to see it growing and the passion behind it. Freddie, I think we're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki, for the stories. And it's incredible to be at an international level and talk to you about getting something like this going because, like, in the States, we want a whip meeting. Well, there's a board of directors meeting. We do a women in propane roundtable. It's where we all meet at the expo. I mean, we're not traveling all around the world trying to get these organizations going. So well done to you and Allison. That's an incredible story, and I hope people really enjoy what you two ladies have done in the industry. So yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Okay, it's now time for the whip round. We're just going to ask you a bunch of questions, answer them, whatever comes to your mind. If you're dare enough to say that one thing that pops up in your mind right away, go for it. We've heard all sorts of answers, so you probably will surprise us, but it won't be the last time we hear something surprising. So, with that being said, go ahead, Bridget. I'll let you kick this one off.
Okay. I am going to say, how would you describe yourself in one word?
Um, I would suggest that, and this is something that I say to people because they say, you always seem so composed and calm. And I say, no, I would suggest I'm actually a swan. So what you see is this very persona of calmness and control, but underneath, I'm absolutely paddling like mad. But nobody sees that. And as long as I can hide that, I'm doing a good job.
I love that. I love that.
I One of the favorite answers. That's so funny because the ducks and geese and swans, they just look like they're just steady across the water, but their little feet are just moving.
Moving really
That's
fast.
funny. So, Nikki, what do you think about when you're alone?
Um, I'm not very good at keeping my brain quiet. So my brain goes in all sorts of different directions when I'm on my own. It goes towards my family, my daughter, my husband. It goes towards the projects that we've got going on in France. Moreover, it goes towards what can we do? And I'm always searching on the internet for interesting facts and figures to be able to pop into speeches and things that we do for Win LPG, and also how we can develop it further. So my brain is very active just about all the time. In fact, when I sleep, I actually put earplugs in, not because my husband snores, but because I find it actually stops my brain
Interesting.
acting. So yes, I'm not very good at sitting still, as everybody who knows me well will tell you. I never sit still, and neither does my brain, unfortunately. No, fortunately.
Fortunately,
Yeah,
yep.
fortunately.
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of vacation? What's your ideal vacation?
I probably have two, if I'm honest. I love to ski. I really love skiing. I'm not very good. I really have to say I'm not very good. I'm a bit like an elephant coming down the slopes, but I get from top to bottom without killing anybody. So that's a bonus. But and then also I would think I love time with my daughter. She lives in the UK and I live in France. So we try every year to have a holiday together. And all we do is sit on sunbeds either side of the pool and just talk and catch up and read and just do things that mums and daughters do. And that, yes, I love doing that. So yeah, that's my second type of holiday.
That's awesome. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Now I'm trying to think of the. I think I would. I think I would like to be able to go back and forth in time.
Mm-hmm.
Not to change things, but to learn, so that when you're in your present moment, you can think, well, you need to be able to do that to make sure that X, Y, and Z. So I think I would like to be able to go back and forth in time. That would be my superpower.
Hmm.
That's great. Well, in that vein, what do you wish you would have known when you were 16 that you know now?
Um, I think I would have liked to have known that I can achieve anything. Anybody can achieve anything they want to do if they have the confidence in themselves. And that's one thing I've instilled in my daughter. She can do anything she wants to do, and I'll be proud of her. If she's happy doing it and that's what she wants to do, she will be able to do it. And she always says that her mum is her biggest mentor. So from that point of view, I think it's knowing that you will have the knowing that you can do anything that you want to do, because at 16 you really don't know what you want to do, and you may try 3 or 4 different things, but you can make a success of all of them, but ultimately you'll end up doing exactly what you want to do if you have the confidence to do it. So that's what
Great
I'd
advice to your own 16-year-old
say.
self. My last question for you, Nikki, will be what was the last gift you received?
What was the last gift I received? I think it was flowers. It was flowers, and it was from somebody who I'd helped, and they brought me some flowers to say thank you. So yes, flowers.
Oh, I love that. I love it. All right. And my final question is, if you wrote a book about your career, what would it be called?
Oh dear. How to get there? How to achieve? No, I would say something. Achieving success without knowing how you got there.
I love it. I love it.
Oh my goodness.
I have to say, sometimes I look around and I look back on things I've done and think, did I write that? Did I really do that? That's good.
It took me about a half a second to process that. I'm like, I think I just heard what you said. That is awesome.
It's so accurate.
Insanely good. Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Well, Nikki, thank you so much for being on our podcast. We appreciate the time sitting and talking to Bridget and I about the Women in Propane and Through the Leadership Lens podcast. Any last advice you want to give to our viewers or listeners watching this podcast?
I think fundamentally, everybody has qualities and you need to recognize your own qualities and don't try and be somebody that you're not. Just because somebody else does something and succeeds doesn't mean you have to emulate them. Use what they do, but do it in your own style and always be yourself. I think that's so important. Always be yourself.
That's fantastic. Great. Thank you so much,
You're
Nikki.
so welcome.
This was really a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been another episode of Through the Leadership Lens presented by Women in Propane. Be sure to subscribe, download, and share with a friend. To learn more about Women in Propane, visit us on Facebook, Instagram, or online at www.womeninpropane.org. I'm Freddie Riddler.
And I'm Bridget Kidd. Thanks for listening. Until next time.